Good night. My name is Arthur Kampela. I am the composer of the piece Not I that Matthew James will perform tonight. He asked me to briefly describe what I was trying to do with this piece and the connections between, for example, the play that was done by Samuel Beckett and my piece. Well, in the first moment, uh, the immediate connection between the materials that I use and the situation that I see in the Samuel Beckett are going to be very foregrounded once you start to see the piece. But basically, the piece of Samuel Beckett, it's very interesting because instead of putting a character on the scene, he puts a mouth and in a completely darkened stage. So, and this mouth speaks without interruption. It talks about some incident that happened to the character before. And what's most interesting is that after listening for a while to this mouth speaking without interruption, you start to see language itself being thrown at you as if it was a type of it acquires this kind of like a excremental hue, this color. It acquires this some kind of like a throwing up of the very elements that are trying to be uttered, which is the language. And I think that the intention in this moment is to alienate yourself from the very creature, the very person, very being that is trying to describe its own story, for you to be focusing and on listening to the language. So, for me, it happens that in this first moment there is already a detachment between the idea that you have normally a person on stage doing a specific discourse, and you alienate and you create some kind of like a short circuit in the way you perceive the discourse, because you take the person out of the scene. So in this first friction, I already see that there are a very interesting, of course, dramatic situation. But what I think that Beckett wants to forward is the very idea of language and not of the character. So basically, that's more or less the overarching idea of the play. And I'm not going to go into details about that, but I want to say that in my piece, I started to think about the horn as an instrument that will have some kind of sonic analogy. Of course, the horn is already connected with the mouth because it's an instrument that the musician blows, and then the mouth itself doesn't need to be analogously revealed as in the play, in my view. It's simply that the horn should be submitted to this process of deconstruction, where the instrument doesn't need to be playing what is expected from it. The instrument should also have this type of like a slide, this type of short circuit, where you started to hear it in a different way. The same way that with the same research that Beckett used to alienate the character from the voice. And then I use the same contraption, I would say, to alienate the horn from itself, from what is expected from its way of playing. So basically, what I do is I started to work and look at this horn as if it was a found object, not something that you play in a specific way, but something that you look at it and you started to examine all like an holographic way. You go around the horn and you start to perceive what are the types of gesturalities that could interfere with the discourse of the horn. If you just blow a note and press the keys, you will have what you expect from the instrument. No, so without taking this out or completely silencing the horn, I will also add other things, other gestures. For example, in the beginning of the piece, you're going to see that he uses some kind of like card to extract some kind of percussive sounds from the instrument. And this also amplifies the gamut of his gesturality. He's not only now playing with his voice, with his blowing the instrument, but is now perceiving how he could play the instrument. Is this question that he puts, is exactly this, that he puts the instrument in question, that is interesting, because you start to see the instrument, an instrument that you probably know or have seen already, but you start to see it under a new light, a new perspective. And I still do something else from that type of discourse. One of my intentions here was to dislocate still more the idea of performance and language and connection. So what I mean by that is the following: when the horn player starts to perform all this strange gesturality, he also uses some type, I know I don't want to take the surprise out of the way, but some device, a light, and I wanted this light to be exactly a metaphor for that mouth. In which sense? Is that if I'm putting a light in a musical discourse, it is obvious that the light is not going to sound like the horn. But if the light is submitted to a certain kind of rhythmic interpretation penetration with the discourse, with the music utterances, I think that the light suddenly acquires some type of sonic residua. You understand? So in my view, at least I feel that the light, which is an object of vision, let's say, of silence, is going to start to have duration, time, rhythmic appearance. Is going to appear and disappear. So it's like when we say words. See, when I'm saying this discourse for you, you are in an homogeneous plane, because every word that I'm saying, that I'm uttering to you right now, it's some kind balanced by the other words. You know, you can notice pauses, you can notice different types of like breathing in my. But if I start to put these elements on the front, like or but I, those types of funny interruptions, I started to create a kind of looking glass in the very things that propel language. And with the light, I do the same. I started to put light in the discourse, and the light acquires not simply a mission of presence and absence, but the light acquires by residue, some kind of residua. The idea of sound. So sometimes you have more light, more sound, less sound, and without hearing it. So what I do is a play on perception, a play on cognition, and I think that this is the idea of the piece. And the piece finishes with the horn player going out of stage, speaking the words of the text that is proclaiming this incident. But the most important thing is not that you be worried about exactly what the words are or how the text connects with the music itself, but is to see that everything, the text, the music, the light, are juxtapositions of states of being. Is this what I wanted to reflect more than the content of the piece? I want to translate the content exactly the way it is. No, what I wanted is to show the way things juxtapose itself in time, like language and for example, the way you intersperse pauses, and you intersperse like you do. My hands are moving here, for example. All these little things are become the music, become this accumulation, this accretion. So I started to explore this idea of what I call extended techniques. That is something that is gonna permeate the whole piece. In other words, in order for me to make you see the horn with new eyes, I create some kind of distancing of the instrument from its expected sounds, and I make it you to see it in a different context. And I use the piece of Beckett as my double, my relevant my relevant theatrical possibility or theatrical stage, where I will reenact that, but not with what language, or language that makes sense, but through the horn sound in a very abstract way. So what I'm doing is just this reenactment of the musical situations, pauses, breathing, percussive sounds, light that exists even if you do not understand immediately the content of the message, but it's just a superimposition of the sounds of the message. Basically, that's it. I hope you enjoy, and I wish I was there to share the performance of Matthew with you. Thank you.